Okay, you're one of the most productive people I know. What's the secret to your productivity? How do you maximize the number of productive hours in a day? You're a scientist, you're a teacher, you're a very prolific educator.
Well, thanks for the kind words. I struggle like everybody else, but I am pretty relentless about meeting deadlines. I miss them sometimes, but sometimes that means cramming. Sometimes that means starting early. But
has that been hard? Sorry to interrupt with the podcast. There's certain episodes. I mean, you're like taking just incredibly difficult topics, and there's going to be a lot of really good scientists listening to those with a very skeptical and careful eye. Like, how hard do you struggle meeting that deadline sometimes?
Yes, we've pushed out episodes because I want more time with them. I haven't advertised this, but I have another fully tenured professor that's started checking my podcasts and helping me find papers. He's a close friend of mine. He's an incredible expert in neuroplasticity, and that's been helpful. But I research I do all the primary research for the episodes myself. Although my niece has been doing a summer internship with me and finding amazing papers. Mm-hmm. She did last summer as well. She's really good at it. Just stick that kid on the internet and she gets great stuff.
Can I ask you, just going on tangents here, what's the hardest, finding the papers or understanding what a paper is saying?
Finding the best papers. Yeah. Because you have to, you read a bunch of reviews, figure out who's getting cited, call people in a field, make sure that this is the stuff. I mean, I did this episode recently on ketamine, about ketamine. I wasn't on ketamine. And there's this whole debate about S versus R ketamine, SR ketamine. And I called 2 clinical experts at Stanford. I had a researcher at UCLA help me. Even then, a few people had gripes about it. I don't think they understood a section that I was perhaps could have been clearer about. But yeah, you're always concerned that people won't get it or I won't be clear. So the researching is mainly about finding the best papers. And then I'm looking for papers that establish a thoroughness of understanding that are interesting. Obviously, it's fun to get occasionally look at some of the odder or more progressive papers that are, what's new in a field, and then where there are actionable takeaways to really export those with a lot of thoughtfulness. I mean, I think that going back to the productivity thing, I get up, I look at the sun, I don't stare at the sun, but I get my sunshine. It all starts with a really good night's sleep. I think that's really important to understand. So much so that if I wake up and I don't feel rested enough, I'll often do a non-sleep deep rest, yoga nidra, or go back to sleep for a little bit, get up, really prioritize one, the big block of work for the thing that I'm researching. I think a little bit of anxiety and a little bit of concern about deadline helps. Turning the phone off helps. Realizing that those peak hours, whenever they are for you, you do not allow those hours to be invaded unless there's a nuclear bomb goes off. And nuclear bomb is just a phraseology for, it could be family crisis would be good justification if there's an emergency, obviously. But it's all about focus. It's all about focus in the moment. It's not even so much about how many hours you log. It's really about focus in the moment. How much total focus can you give to something? And then I like to take walks and think about things and sometimes talk about them in my voice recorder. So I'm just always churning on it all the time. And then, of course, learning to turn it off and engage with people socially and, not be podcasting 24 hours a day in your head is key. But I think I love learning and researching and finding those papers and the information, and I love teaching it. And these days I use a whiteboard. Before I start, I don't have any notes, no teleprompter. Then the whiteboard that I use beforehand is to really sculpt out the different elements and the flow, get the flow right, and move things around. The whiteboard is such a valuable tool. Then take a couple pictures of that when I'm happy with it, put it down on the desk. And these are just bullet points, and then just churn through. And nothing feels better than, researching and sharing information. And as you did, grew up writing papers, and it's hard. And I like the friction of can't, I want to get up, want to use the bathroom. When I was in college, I was trying to make up deficiencies from my lack of attendance in high school. so much so that I would set a timer. I wouldn't let myself get up to use the bathroom even. Never had an accident, but I was, I mean, it was like I listen to music, classical music, Rancid, a few other things, some Bob Dylan maybe thrown in there, and just study and it felt, and then, hit the 2 hour mark and you're in pain and then you get up and you're like, use the bathroom. Like that felt so good.
Yeah.
There's something about the human brain that likes these kind of friction points and working through them, and you just have to work through them. So yeah, I'm productive and my life is arranged around it. And, that's been a bit of a barrier to personal life at times, but my life's been arranged around it. I've set up everything so that I can learn more, teach more, including, some of my home life. And, but I do, still watch Chimp Empire. Still got time to watch Chimp Empire. Look, the great Joe Strummer, right? Clash, or my favorite Mescaleros, he said, this famous Strummer quote, no input, no output. So you need experience, you need outside things in order to foster the process. But just nose to the grindstone, man. I don't know. And that's what I'm happy to do with my life. I don't think anyone should do that just because, but this is how I'm showing up. And if you don't like me, then scroll. What do they say? Swipe left, swipe right. I don't know. I'm not on the apps, the dating apps. So that's the other thing. I keep waiting for when listens to Lex Fridman Podcast is a checkbox on like Hinge or Bumble or whatever it is. But I don't even know, are those that are field? I don't know what are the apps now?
I've never used an app, and I always found troublesome how little information is provided on apps.
Well, they're the ones that are like a stocked lake, like Raya. It's like they sort of like companies will actually fill them with people that look a certain way, and
soon it'll be filled with AI.
Oh, yeah, that's
the way you said. Oh,
that's
the heartbreak within that.
Well, I'm guilty of liking real human interaction.
Have you tried AI interaction?
No, but I have a feeling you're going to convince me to.
One day. I've also struggled finishing projects that are new, that are something new. Like, for example, one of the things I really struggled finishing is something that's in Russian that requires translation and overdub and all that kind of stuff. The other project I've been working on for like over at least a year, off and on, but trying to finish is something we've talked about in the past. I'm still on it. Project on Hitler and World War II. I've written so much about it, and I just don't know why I can't finish it. I have trouble, like, really. I think I'm terrified being in front of the camera.
Like this?
Like this.
Or solo?
Well, actually, no, solo.
Well, if ever you want to do solo, and seriously, because we've done this before, right? Our clandestine study missions. I'm happy to sit in the corner and work on my book or do something if you want to. If it feels good, to just have someone
just
in
for
the room.
feeling of somebody else.
Definitely.
What do you? I mean, how do you? You don't seem to. You seem to have been fearless to just sit in front of the camera by yourself to do the episode.
Yeah, it was weird. I mean, the first year of the podcast, it just spilled out of me. It was just, I had all that stuff. I was so excited about it. I've been talking to everyone and who would listen and anyone, even when who they'd run away, I'd keep talking, before there was ever a camera. It wasn't on social media. In 2019, I posted a little bit. 2020, as you know, started going on podcasts. But yeah, the zest and delight in this stuff. It's like circadian rhythms. I'm going to tell you about this stuff. I just felt like here was the opportunity and just let it burst. And then as we've gotten into topics that are a little bit further away from my home knowledge, it's like I still get super excited about it. I mean, it's music in the brain episode I've been researching for a while now. I'm just so hyped about it. It's so interesting. There's so many facets. Singing versus improvisational, music versus listening to music versus learning music. I mean, it just goes on and on. There's just so much that's so interesting. I just can't get enough. And I think, I don't know, you put a camera in front of me, I sort of forget about it. And I'm just trying to just teach. Yeah, so that's interesting. I mean, forget the camera. Maybe I need to find that joy as well. But like for me, a lot of the joy is in the writing, and the camera. There's something Well, the best lecturers, as you know, and you're a phenomenal lecturer, so you embody this as well. But when I teach at Stanford, I was directing this course in neuroanatomy and neuroscience and for medical students, and I noticed that the best lecturers would come in and they're teaching the material from a place of deep understanding, but they're also experiencing it as a first-time learner at the same time. So it's just sort of embodying the delight of it, but also the authority over them, not authority, but the sort of mastery of the material. And it's really the delight in it that the students are linking onto. And of course, they need and deserve the best accurate material. So they have to know what they're talking about. But just tap into that energy of learning and loving it. And people are along for the ride. Or, I get accused of being long-winded, but, things get taken out of context. That leads to greater misunderstanding. And also I come from a lineage of 3 dead advisors, all three. So I don't know when the reaper's coming for me. I'm doing my best to stay alive a long time, but whether or not it's a bullet or a bus or cancer or whatever, or just old age, I'm trying to get it all out there as best I can. And if it means you have to hit pause and come back a day or two later, that seems like a reasonable compromise to me. I'm not going to go longer than I need to, and I'm trying to shorten them up. But again, that's kind of how I show up. It's like Tim Armstrong would say about writing songs. I asked him, how often do you write? Every day. Every day. Has Rick ever stopped creating? No. Has Joe ever stopped preparing for comedy? Are you ever stopping to think about world issues and technology and who you can talk to? It seems to me you've always got a plan. The inside. The thing I love about your podcast the most, to be honest, these days, is the surprise of I don't know who the hell's going to be there. Yeah. It's almost like I get a little nervously excited about when a new episode comes out because I have no idea. No idea. And, I have some guesses based on what you told me during the break. You've got some people where it's just like, whoa, Lex went there. Awesome. Can't wait. Click. I think that's really cool. You're constantly surprising people. So you're doing it so well, it's such a high level. And I think it's also important for people to understand that what you're doing, Lex, there's no precedent for it. Sure, there have been interviews before, there have been podcasts before, there are discussions before, but it's not like how many of your peers can you look to find out how best to do the content like yours? 0. There's one peer, you. And so, that should give you great peace and great excitement because you're a pioneer. You're literally the tip of the spear. I don't want to take an unnecessary tangent, but I think this might thread together 2 of the things that we've been talking about, which are, I think, of pretty key importance. One is romantic relationships, and the other is creative process and work. And this, again, is something I learned from Rick, but that he and I have gone back and forth on, and that I think is worth elaborating on, which is, earlier we were saying, the best relationship is going to be one where it brings you peace. I think peace also can be translated to, among other things, lack of distraction. So when you're with your partner, can you really focus on them and the relationship? Can you not be distracted by things that you're upset about from their past or from your past with them or and of course the same is true for them, right? They ideally will feel that way towards you too. They can really focus. Also, when you're not with them, can you focus on your work? Can you not be worried about whether or not they're okay because you trust that they're an adult and they can handle things, or they will reach out if they need things. They're going to communicate their needs like an adult, not creating messes just to get attention and things like that, or disappearing, for that matter. So peace and focus are intimately related, and distraction is the enemy of peace and focus. So there's something there, I believe, because with people that have the strong generative drive and want to, be productive in their home life, in the sense of have a rich family life, or partner life, whatever that is, and in their work life, the ability to really drop into the work and okay, you might have that sense I hope they're okay, or, need to check my phone or something, but just know we're good. Yeah. So peace and focus, I think, and being present are so key. And it's key at every level of romantic relationship, from, certainly presence and focus, everything from sex to listening to to raising a family, to tending to the house. And in work, it's absolutely critical. So I think that those things are kind of mirror images of the same thing, and they're both important reflections of the other. And when you start to just, when work is not going well, then the focus on relationship can suffer, and vice versa. So,
and it's crazy how important that is.
Peace.
How incredibly wonderful it could be to have a person in your life that kind of enables that creative focus.
Yeah, and you supply the peace and focus for their endeavors, whatever those might be. I mean, that symmetry there, because clearly people have different needs, and the need to just really trust. Like when Lex is working, he's in his generative mode, and I know he's good, and so then they feel sure they've contributed to that, but then also what you're doing is supporting them in whatever way it happens to be. And I think that sometimes you'll see that people will pair up along creative or musical or computer scientist. But I think, again, going back to this Conti episode on relationships, is that the superficial labels are less important, it seems, than just the desire to create that kind of home life and relationship together. And as a consequence, the work mode, and for some people, both people aren't working, and sometimes they are, but I think that's the good stuff, and I think that's the big learning in all of it, is that the further along I go with each birthday, I guarantee you're going to be like, what I want is simpler and simpler and harder to create, but oh, so worth it.